A spokesman for Turkey's ruling AKP party says it is open to the idea of a referendum on controversial plans to redevelop Istanbul's Gezi Park. However, Huseyin Celik also called on protesters to leave the park. Those who seek to provoke and remain in the park will face the police, he said. Police treatment of protesters campaigning against the redevelopment triggered broader demonstrations that have continued since May 31. Demonstrators have remained in Gezi Park throughout. Turkish media reported that on Wednesday Mr Erdogan had told the interior minister to end the protests in Gezi Park within 24 hours. Senior European diplomats have expressed strong concern over Turkey's response to the protests. Early on Wednesday evening, protesters began gathering again in Takism Square, next to the park. Police stood back along the edges of the square, which had been cleared during the day after a series of violent clashes between police and protesters on Tuesday and overnight. During the day, Prime Minister Recep Tayyip Erdogan met 11 activists, but protest leaders have dismissed the meeting. Freedom of speech. Also on Wednesday, thousands of Turkish lawyers turned out to protest against the treatment of their colleagues during the demonstrations. Dozens of lawyers were briefly held on Tuesday as they voiced their opposition to police action to clear protesters from Taksim Square. In both Istanbul and the capital, Ankara, thousands of lawyers left court in their black robes on Wednesday to march through the streets. Our friends who had been detained in Istanbul were taken under custody just because they were reading a press release, said one of the lawyers in Ankara, Mehmet Toker. We are here to defend freedom of speech. Demonstrators in Istanbul, Ankara and other cities accuse Mr Erdogan of becoming increasingly authoritarian and trying to impose conservative Islamic values on a secular state. Oppression has been going on for months, said another lawyer, Ejinal. The government is exactly like the ones that they have been criticizing. That is why we are here. Late in the afternoon, Mr Erdogan met a group of 11 people, including artists, architects and a social media specialist, to discuss the situation in Gezi Park. But those in the park and Taksim Solidarity, an umbrella group seen as most representative of the protesters, said the activists did not speak for them. As police violence continues mercilessly, these meetings will in no way lead to a solution, a statement from Taksim Solidarity said. 12 days in Taksim Square. Protests in Taksim Square since June 1. Mr Erdogan has said protests will no longer be tolerated, dismissing protesters as looters. Turkish President Abdullah Gül, who has taken a more conciliatory line than Mr Erdogan, said authorities should listen to protesters' grievances. If people have objections, then to engage in a dialogue with these people, to hear out what they say is no doubt our duty, he told reporters. European Foreign Policy Chief Catherine Ashton said the unrest represented a key moment for Turkey, and a chance for it to renew its commitment to European values. The Turkish Human Rights Foundation said more than 620 people had been injured in Tuesday's police crackdown. Since the protests began, 4 people have been killed, including 1 policeman, and some 5,000 protesters as well as hundreds of police officers are estimated to have been injured. Italian Foreign Minister Emma Bonino said the unrest was the first serious test for the endurance of democracy in Turkey and its accession to Europe, while German Foreign Minister Guido Westerwelle expressed his concern in a statement. We expect Prime Minister Erdogan to de-escalate the situation, in the spirit of European values, and to seek a constructive exchange and peaceful dialogue, he said.